Jai.
Wow. Hare Krishna, welcome to our Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class. We continue in the 4th canto, chapter 7, entitled The Sacrifice Performed by Daksha, and we are at text 55. Maitreya Vacha Evam Bhagavadhadishta Evam Bhagavadhadishta Prajapati Patir Harim Prajapati Patir Harim Archidva Kradunasvena Archidva Kradunasvena Devanubhayato yajat Devanubhayato yajat Maitreya Vacha Evam Bhagavadhadishta Prajapati Patir Harim Archidva Kradunasvena Devanubhayato svayat
Maitreya Vacha Evam Bhagavadhadishta Prajapati Patir Harim Archidva Kradunasvena Devanubhayato yajat Maitreya Vacha Evam Bhagavadhadishta Prajapati Patir Harim Archidva Kradunasvena Devanubhayato yajat
Maitreya Vacha Evam Bhagavadhadishta Prajapati Patir Harim Archidva Kradunasvena Devanubhayato yajat
Maitreya Uvacha said Evam thus Bhagavata by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Adishtaha having been instructed Prajapati Pati the head of all the Prajapatis Harim Hari Archidva after worshipping Kraduna with the sacrificial ceremonies Svena his own Devan the demigods Ubhyayataha separately Ayachat worshipped. I think I forgot to... Did we chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya?
We did.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Translation, purport, best divine grace, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. The sage Maitreya said, thus Daksha, the head of all Prajapatis, having been nicely instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worshipped Lord Vishnu. After worshipping him by performing the prescribed sacrificial ceremonies, Daksha separately worshipped Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Purport: Lord Vishnu should be offered everything and his prasad should be distributed to all the demigods. This practice is still followed in the temple of Jagannath at Puri. There are many temples of demigods around the main temple of Jagannath, and the prasad which is offered first to Jagannath is distributed to all the demigods. The deity of Bhagalin is worshipped with the prasad of Vishnu, and also in the famous Lord Shiva temple of Bhuvaneshwara. The prasad of Lord Vishnu or Lord Jagannath is offered to the deity of Lord Shiva. This is the Vaishnava principle. The Vaishnava does not deride even ordinary living entities, including the small ant. Everyone is offered proper respect according to his position. The offering, however, is in relation to the center, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna or Vishnu. The devotee who is highly elevated sees the relationship to Krishna in everything. He does not see anything as being independent of Krishna. That is his vision of oneness. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svavarantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vagisha Yasya Vadhane Lakshmi Yasya Chavakshasi Yasya Te Hridaye Samvit Tam Narasimham Maham Bhaje Pralada Hridayaladam Bhakta Vitya Vidaram Sharatindurjim Vande Pavindra Vandanam Harim. The verse again. The sage Maitreya said, thus Daksha, the head of all Prajapatis, having been nicely instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worshipped Lord Vishnu. After worshipping him by performing the prescribed sacrificial ceremonies, Daksha separately worshipped Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. So first I would shortly like to relate to the story, or where we are at in the story of Daksha. We could see the whole last, I think at least 3 chapters, dealt with how Daksha was doing exactly the opposite of what he's doing now. He was offending Lord Shiva greatly, disrespecting him, and also others than like his own daughter. And now he came to a point of worshipping Lord Shiva. So there was a whole process, which was just like many things happened by Lord Shiva, by Lord Vishnu, and Lord Brahma, and the demigods, which led to that Daksha came to a point of truly respecting Lord Shiva. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhachadevi ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. And I think this is a very significant process, because all the conditioned souls, I think every one of us, we can see that when it comes to giving honor or properly respecting others according to their status or capacity, it's often quite challenging, because we all possess a strong false ego, some more, some less, but still it is for us often difficult, particularly like here, to worship others. Particularly if it comes to Vaishnavas, we say the Guru is being worshipped, and so many great Vaishnava. Worship does not necessarily always mean the pompous like ceremony. Worship is also simply by offering prayers, pranams and all that. It's a form of worship. Even if we meet other Vaishnavas and we say Vanchakalparupascha and bow down, then that's a form of worship, actually. So this is the basis of that, is that we have a feeling or sense of respect to them. Respect, if you look at a dictionary, is often connected with esteem, having high esteem, like valuing something, and like also admiration is connected with it. But literally, also the word, it is derived from a Latin word, of course, and it means, it comes from respectus, which means looking toward, or like looking in hindsight, or retrospective. It's about acknowledging and considering a particular thing, and this is usually related to the person's qualities, the person itself. We acknowledge a person in its, or like his or her value. So, and respect is a very crucial element also in our spiritual practice, and it is highlighted in many places. And Daksha was now able to properly respect Lord Shiva by understanding actually who he truly is, by acknowledging his glories. So I think this is something that is also for every living entity important. That's why we, find in the scriptures that the acharyas teach us so detailed and so carefully about who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, what is the status of the spiritual master and the Vaishnava, so that we create an understanding that enables us actually to naturally give that respect, to worship, to pay obeisances and all that. Even said, Krishna himself structured the Bhagavad Gita in a way that he creates conviction in the student that Krishna is a supreme worshipable object. It's at the 10th chapter, which contains also the Chatu Shloki. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains that actually why it's called Vibhuti Yoga, and Vibhuti means the opulences of the Lord. And Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains why is he doing that, why is he speaking about his Vibhutis, in order that the student or like the listener becomes convinced that Krishna is the supreme object of worship, that he's the source of everything, etc. So if we acknowledge that, see him in this way, that means we respect him properly, acknowledging his true position. So in similar, it's about then the Vaishnava and the demigods also. They are supposed to be respected according to their position and their glories, that they have, and we find many distinctions also in Shastra. And here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is describing how at Jagannath Puri, for example, there's a practice going on that the surrounding temples of the demigods are being provided with the prasadam of Lord Jagannath. And in South India, it is common, the temples, the very ancient temples, they are structured in a way that in front of the temple is a so-called, usually it's called Garuda Stamba. It's like a big, how to say in English, the pillar, which represents also the 14 planetary systems. And before that pillar, there's like a stone kind of altar, like with some plate. And there you often see also remnants of rice and stuff, because there the prasadam of the deity, of the Vishnu deity, is being brought and offered to the demigods in all the planetary systems. So that's a common practice, that all the direct servants of Vishnu, his empowered or appointed servants, are being properly respected. That we don't say, oh, they're only demigods, we don't bother with them. No, we also properly respect them, because they are actually way more advanced than we are in their devotional service. They are entrusted with the universal functions, with the elements, with so many stuff, and they have a higher vision. Lord Brahma himself, the beginning of our parampara, is a pure Vaishnava, and he can converse with Vishnu. So they should be all given proper respect, since they possess transcendental attributes and qualifications that we don't have. And here also Srila Prabhupada writes, the Vaishnava does not deride even ordinary living entities, including the small ant. Everyone is offered proper respect according to his position. So here it leads to the understanding of the Uttam Adhikari, actually. If you read that verse, Srila Prabhupada says, the devotee who is highly elevated sees the relationship to Krishna in everything. He does not see anything as being independent of Krishna. That is his vision of oneness. And also last week we spoke about a positive sense of oneness with the Lord, seeing the spiritual relationship, or how we are spiritually, eternally united with Krishna. Because we are his expansions, we are of his same energy. And thus an advanced Vaishnava can see, like truly perceive in each body the same jiva, and can respect therefore each living entity equally. And we can try do that, and we will find it's quite a challenge. In the Bhakti Shastri course, we did a little experiment when we were speaking of the 13th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, and nature, joy and consciousness. There's the description of the Paramatma, the Atma, and so on. And we said, let's practice, let's at least assume, of course we cannot see directly, but let's assume in each person we meet, we can have a little image, we imagine that there's the Paramatma sitting there, and try to look at each person like that. And we followed up a bit on that, and we found, well, this is quite challenging for the mind. Because immediately, if you see a person, it also was my opinion, like it's always the differences that peek out. Always something that maybe disturbs is there, like seeing it, wow, what is that? And I feel not respectful, rather the contrary, I feel very, maybe even contempt or very critical. And it takes a conscious effort to always pull the mind back and consider, wait a second, besides all the material qualities that are now visible to my mind, there is a jiva within this body which is purely spiritual spark, like Krishna, like me, and in this way we are equal. Although at the same time we have very completely different bodies, different qualities, and some of these qualities might be very disturbing for me, and I might feel contempt or hateful even toward others who behave a certain way, who represent a certain way of life or whatever. So it's quite a challenge to get to that platform of truly seeing and acknowledging everyone as an equally valuable part of Krishna. Because the influence of Rajas and Tamas dictates that you see a difference in quality and value. It doesn't dictate us, oh yeah, please see the oneness, see how you're all equal despite material differences. So therefore there's so much conflict and so much judgment also, also among devotees. We can see that we have a whole system, there's a whole ladder of statuses that are supposed to be considered. Like one is the non-devotees, the devotees. Among the devotees, there are the Kanishta Madhyam, Uttamatikari, first initiated, second initiated, this, that, and there are many other things. From this mat, or this mat means institution, or from this sampradaya or that sampradaya. And there's so much judgment of value, which often makes it difficult to truly respect a living entity for what it is, a spiritual expansion of Krishna. And here, like again, the vision of a pure devotee is described, and we actually must develop there. It's not something one can artificially adopt, and it is about more and more cultivating this understanding of who we are as a spiritual spark, because it's also said, Atmavan Manyate Jagat, each living entity projects his own consciousness in its environment. So if I identify with a certain quality of my body and consider it superior, and then I compare, of course, others to me, and if I feel more superior, then usually I consider the inferiority of others. It can be the other way around, I feel inferior and then consider all others superior, based though on the material body. I don't see a oneness or connection on the spiritual platform, but this is required. And the devotee is meant to constantly meditate upon these topics of self-realization. Srila Prabhupada says, when he describes certain features, also I think it is 13th chapter, the items of knowledge, he says silence means always thinking of self-realization. This is what he considers as silence. Being very contemplative on what is the soul, what is the body, over and over again, absorb the mind and try to perceive it, see the difference, be a careful observer, and listen to the descriptions of Shastra in order to sharpen the intelligence to really distinguish one thing from the other, because they always mix up. When we deal with people and everything, we always see the external clothing, so to speak, and respond to that either positively or negatively, perhaps neutrally. So in the Vaishnava culture, there are particular ways how this certain respect is being shown. Some very concrete example is given in the Nectar of Instruction, where Srila Rupa Goswami is pointing to those living entities who already adopted the path of devotional service. It's another thing if they're so-called non-devotees, which we could consider, devotees on standby. They're not yet activated, but everyone is actually a servant of the Lord. just not yet willing. In a positive sense, a sleeper. You have that, sleepers in a very negative context in certain religions. So here in text 5 of the Nectar of Instruction, it is said one should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, diksha, and is engaged in worshipping the deity, and one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, Srila Rupa Goswami therefore advises that we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way according to their particular status. In this verse he tells us how to deal with 3 types of devotees, the Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttam Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari is a neophyte who has received the Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. One should respect such a person within his mind as Kanishta Vaishnava. So here it's interesting, there's like a first level. It's already referring to a person who made a step, taking a vow, being initiated, and engaging in devotional service. He's considered still a Kanishta Adhikari in that context, Srila Goswami. And it said one should at least respect these person in the mind. So if you look at respect, as we heard it before, like if you take the word, it's like acknowledging, looking at a certain quality that is worth of esteeming it, valuing it. So that's a principle of respect, seeing value, acknowledging value, and behaving accordingly. That we don't devalue someone or kind of let down someone, make him feel worthless or her. It's about always appreciating value and accordingly behaving respectfully. That's why every living entity is in itself valuable, since it is a expansion of Krishna. It is wanted by Krishna, created by Krishna, is full of spiritual potency, independent of the body it might have now, and therefore one should respect it as we ourselves are in the same way valuable as parts of Krishna. Because respect is not just giving it to others, it also relates to respect toward ourselves. It's an interesting concept. It's not about, we often have this discussion nowadays also among certain Vaishnavas, how is that with self-respect, self-love and all these things? Do we do that and don't? There are certain opinions, certain Vaishnavas come from one perspective and rather denying it, others more like emphasizing it, approving it, and it's certainly always a matter a bit of semantics, but also simply about common sense. It's logically inconsistent if I would say each living entity is a valuable spiritual soul, expansion of Krishna, and should therefore be respected, but exclude myself, saying, but I'm not. Or would you agree or would you disagree?
I agree.
Is that consistent or is it inconsistent?
Inconsistent.
Right. So of course it's not about being puffed up, it's a different story, but it's about in the first place being logically consistent, saying, okay, also I am a spiritual soul, and therefore I have a responsibility to look at my status of life, where am I standing in life, and that I have a responsibility toward Krishna to actually take care of myself. Right? I'm his expansion, I'm his energy, and he also intended to have a relationship with me, therefore I'm there, therefore I'm existing. Right? And I'm not actually, it would be immoral to take myself out of this intention of Krishna, right? and acting like as if I don't matter. That's actually a mode of ignorance. We do not see the value Krishna has given to us in relationship to him. He has equipped us with a certain capacity to have a relationship with Him, and it's actually, in that sense, our duty to follow up on that and to try to develop that. And He is encouraging this all the time in the Shastras. So if you understand that, if you really see that value in us, then, and understand everyone is in the same boat practically, we are all jivas, expansions of Him, then I can treat others also with the same sense of value. Sometimes why it's not possible for us to truly maybe respect and appreciate people is also because we don't do it toward ourselves. That we have some people are coming from a place maybe of pride and arrogance, and therefore they think others are less valuable than I am. But it can also be the other way around, that I myself don't see value in me, and therefore I hardly can genuinely respect others. I can behave like kind and nice, but deep inside I have no faith actually in my own value, and also in the value of others. So here I went a bit away from the purpose. The Kanishta should be honored at least within the mind. So it means mentally having an attitude, this person is respectable, like any other living entity. Prabhupada also says, of course you also respect the dog, but you don't pay obeisances to a dog. You respect him by treating him humane, giving him food and prasadam ideally, maybe bless him with the mantra saying, may you attain human form of body in your next life. Like this, but seeing him as also equally valuable part of Krishna. And then said, a Madhyam Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master, means second initiation, and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. He should be considered midway in devotional service. So here in the verse it said, one should offer humble obeisances to devotees who have undergone spiritual initiation. And here it's about a certain status. This is connected to how much is a person dedicated to spiritual elevation, and this way also he or she becomes much more of a benefactor to others. And based on that also a person is respected. One thing is essentially, simply that you are, and you are a part of Krishna, therefore you're respectable. Then it matters, what do you do in your life? How do you influence others? This also makes you more or less respectable. Therefore we say, so some person who is just eating, sleeping, drinking, intoxicating and being destructive, he is not respectable on a level of his activities. But he is also respectable as a part of Krishna. So there's a distinction. And here the Madhyamadikari is a person who is dedicated himself more intensely to the service of the Lord, and he also can distinguish. He distinguishes between Krishna, the devotees, the innocent and the atheist, and carefully chooses how to reciprocate with whom. And for example, with the so-called innocent people, he is compassionate. He tries to support them, she tries to support them, elevate them, and with the atheist, avoiding them, also protecting his own or her own spiritual life. Not avoiding influence that is not beneficial for spiritual advancement. So in that sense, this person is more respectable because he or she endeavors also to elevate others. Making a sacrifice and also engaging, becoming more selfless in the service of Guru and Krishna. And then at the last point, the Uttamadikari said, who is completely free from the propensity to criticize others and has this as that vision of oneness that was described. He sees really literally just everyone as a servant of Krishna. He should be followed by one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So we are advised by Rupa Goswami, this form of respect should be given to a very advanced person. We should seek the association and follow that person, serve that person, because by this association we can elevate ourselves as well. And here again, respect means appreciating the value of someone who has left behind the mode of Rajas and Tamas, and also Sattva-gun, who has transcended that and can therefore be the utmost benefactor for every living entity, for one, including ourselves. So it's about appreciating value. And here in the Purport Srila Prabhupada also says something. One should not remain a Kanishta Adhikari, one who is situated on the lowest platform of devotional service and is interested only in worshipping the deity in the temple. But actually there was something else I want to read. Because here's your proper in this purport. He says, we can see from practical experience there are different types of Vaishnavas. The Prakrita Sahajas, or Kanishthadikaris, generally chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, yet they are attached to women, money and intoxication. Although such persons may chant the holy name of the Lord, they are not yet properly purified. Such people should be respected within one's mind, but their association should be avoided, he says. So we can respect someone, but don't have to be close automatically with them. So, but everyone should be respected. So that's some thoughts on the ways how to respect the living entity. And in the Upanishad, this vision of the Uttamadhikari is described in two mantras, mantra 6 and 7. Yastu sarvani bhudhani atmani evanupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tatona vichakupsate. He who sees systematically everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. And here also Srila Prabhupada is elaborating on these three platforms of Kanishta Madhyam Uttamadhikari. And I think just one part I want to take from this verse is that if you have this vision of oneness, automatically hatefulness or contempt disappears. Because the origin of this hatefulness is duality, sense of duality, judging a value of a given living being based on the three modes of nature and not on the context of being a transcendental soul. So because all the duality falls away, all the external conceptions, what remains is the spiritual value of each living entity, which has been seen. And then in mantra 7, it is said, Yasmin sarvani buddhani atmaiva bhut vijanataha tatra ko mohaska shuka ekatvam anupashyataha. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? So here also again the features of the Uttamadhikari, and Srila Prabhupada says, in this mantra the words ekatvam anupashyataha indicate that one should see the unity of all living entities from the viewpoint of the revealed scriptures. The individual sparks of the Supreme Whole, the Lord, possess almost 80% of the known qualities of the whole, but they are not quantitatively equal to the Supreme Lord. These qualities are present in minute quantity for the living entity. For the living entity is but a minute part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. So it's a bit more detailed that we can also think of every living entity as a small version of Krishna. That the jiva is equipped with a certain amount of transcendental qualities, and each of us, we are jivas, and our original spiritual nature is covered yet, well by now, still, but beyond that covering, we have that quality in minute version of Krishna. So in this way everyone can practice to respect other living entities by trying to adopt this perspective from the revealed scriptures which describe the true identity of every living entity that we see in the world. And as I said before in the Bhakti Shastri, we had this little experiment. We said let's try to, if we go out, to try it at least with humans. Sometimes, though, it seems to be easier with animals and plants. Human beings tend to agitate us more. But maybe particularly, therefore, we should try that on the human beings. Maybe to visualize, to imagine in the heart area there's a Paramatma sitting, and also there's the Jiva, which is completely different from the body I see. And try to have this kind of viewpoint, because I also notice myself, I get in touch with a person and maybe I experience a strong disliking, maybe even contempt or annoyance, and then by now it works. I check my mind to withdraw from that kind of sentiment and be on this kind of impartial, equal level, and to be well-wishing, like on work particular anyway I got to, because that's my work. I'm not there to judge people. I offer treatment, so I should be equally giving to everyone. And then it's interesting what happens then when I make that shift, when I withdraw a bit from the judgments and the whatever negative feelings I may have, a different type of connection can happen. Person also tends to open up and to trust, because the person feels good, feels being appreciated, respected, and then it might even completely disappear, the whole disliking or the whole contempt, because it also, first of all, it's an assumption often, and our mind is complex and deep. But the experience is, if we have the attitude of appreciating, valuing others, we can connect positively with them and might have a complete picture, a completely different picture of them afterwards. You might see someone and feel, by already seeing this person, I just don't like him or her, and there's something in this person that really disturbs me or pulls me off or whatever. Then it can happen if you allow yourself to leave that judgment or impression aside and get in touch with a person neutrally, so to speak, and connect. You might, at the end, turns out, actually, this person, he or she, is a very pleasant, nice person, and actually, I'm glad we connected. To not immediately follow the mind, but try to apply the intelligence. Okay, I feel that, but let me apply the perspective of Shastra and try to treat that person like this. So that's kind of consciously also controlling the mind. It's controlling the mind doesn't mean it doesn't happen to you that you feel judgmental or contempt or hateful or whatever. It's about being able to putting this aside and take a different perspective. And just repeatedly do it until your mind is accustomed to say, anyway, whenever I come up with that, he puts it aside, so I don't even come up with that anymore. So that your mind feels like, okay, this is like a programming, then, yes. Alright, so that's from my side. Do you have any comments or questions that would you like to share?
Thank you, Prabhu, for wonderful class. It's nice to hear that. I have a question. For example, you do care about some devotee or non-devotee, you really offer your respect, and you know that this person has some deep meaning in your life. But each time you associate with him or her, it depends, you feel all the time subconsciously very provoked and feel kind of stressed. You want to find the situation, what's happening within yourself. You try to find a solution to kind of find the cause and issue, but you cannot. And you feel that emotionally you're constantly drained. What do you think in that situation possible done and how to possible avoid or work on it to really recognize the issue within?
I mean, from what I understand, what you describe is there's a whole relationship dynamic, which in itself has certain features that might be necessary to look at that more closely. What exactly is the dynamic that leads to that you feel drained? In general, it's advised, as in the purport here, everyone is offered proper respect according to his position. The offering, however, is in relation to the center supreme personality of Godhead or Vishnu. If you find that the person is a non-devotee, not yet willing to or able to also adopt spiritual life, then it's also advised that we adjust our mode of association with that person. Sometimes people try to get them in the boat also, try to help them, support them actually, but the person might be on a completely different spot in their lives, and they might not be able or capable or willing. And feeling drained could come from that my endeavors prove to be futile. I over and over try, but somehow it doesn't work, and I feel maybe exhausted and empty at some point. So it's also about respect can mean acknowledging the limitations of a person and saying, okay, this person is either not ready yet or willing yet to do this. What I can give is always allowing the person to choose, and I'm available when the person chooses to get closer to the spiritual path. Maybe also give prasadam or whatever, send some quotes, invite this person to the temple, but leaving it also up to the person to make a choice and saying, okay, you want to go this way, it's fine, my way goes in another direction, and the truth might be we can't meet anymore, means in a sense of being in life, not meet like physically we cannot meet, but more like we don't meet anymore internally so much. And to also acknowledge that there's a difference in how you lead your life. Does it make sense to you?
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you so much. It's clear.
I'm sure in your job you also meet many people with low self-esteem problem. Yeah. So as you described, our Shastric understanding about ourselves as a soul, who is very valuable for Krishna. So it seems like this, our philosophy is the ultimate solution for low self-esteem.
Yes.
If one actually lives in that mode.
Yeah. Low self-esteem is sometimes confused with humility in spiritual life, that a person might feel encouraged to remain in a so low self-esteem state because it looks like, hey, I'm actually very humble. But humility comes more from a point of understanding. It's not coming from a place of fear and doubt. Low self-esteem is based on fear and doubt. A person does not dare to or feels anxious about whether he or she has value. But Srila Prabhupada says, or like we see in his own example, he was on one side very humble, just seeing himself as a servant of his own spiritual master, not taking credit, at the same time being very bold and strong in preaching. Where you get the impression he's very the opposite of humble. So low self-esteem can also be considered like the other side of the coin of false ego. Ahankara can lead to arrogance and pride. I'm so great, and the opposite is I'm so low and insignificant and useless or have no value. Because both of them identify the value or non-value based on the material body. That's what the false ego does. It identifies with the body, and it can be a very self-glorious self-image you create, or the opposite, a very pathetic self-image. But both are false ego. The soul is neither like a great material body, nor is it like a pathetic material body. The soul is the individual soul, distinct from a body. And this is very subtle, in our daily life. This is something that requires contemplation and about the ability to tolerate whatever abilities or inabilities I have, to not get caught up with that in our self-image. That's the gradual process to learn and understand, actually, whatever my greatness is, whatever my defects are, the soul, as I am, I'm different from that. we could also think of, we had different bodies, we had a completely different set of qualities, a different gender, a different nationality, a different race, a different so many stuff, and it's always changing, but I am a person who adopts material qualities, but I am not the material quality. That's a challenge, to have them, but not be identified with them.
Very practical, right? But sometimes, as devotees, we know that in order to chant holy name properly, one has to be Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Nityana, and in one sense, yeah, we should identify and with our material conditioning, even in the past, but is it bona fide to use our, let's say, fallen material condition and past in order to remind ourselves to become humble?
I would agree with that. I also see it in myself, when I look back and see how I acted, or like how the birth I took, the family I had, the things I did, the qualities I developed, give me no reason to feel in some degree ashamed, because I feel, my God, what did I do? What kind of lifestyle did I adopt? And it's good, and also suffering I experienced, I think it serves me now to be also more understanding and compassionate with others. The own defects I have, mistakes I did, help me to be more careful, more considered, not being too, being not too sure about my mind, what it tells me, but being rather careful. So this meant, yes, our biography, the things we did, can certainly and should serve us to learn and come to a point of having this attitude of humility.
But at the same time, there's a limit. You have to draw the line where it becomes counterproductive for your spiritual life. There must be some healthy balance of how much you use that.
Yeah, actually, before I just wanted to say something, but now it escaped my mind. And we spoke of the value of the jiva, that to create this distinction, between the qualities that are material and that what is spiritual. That's a constant endeavor, and the humility that we want to attain. And he said, we mentioned Trinada Pisunichana. And I understand it like that. Don't be in any sense proud of your body. But the thing is, why we can slip into low self-esteem, maybe feeling depressed and valueless, is because we think, but I am that body. And if I completely devalue it, then I have no value. So what Trinada Pisunichana, in my understanding, means, in this conditioned state, I have nothing to be proud of in terms of this body. Actually, the very fact that I have a body speaks for my fallen condition. And it's an interesting thing we might consider. A person who has attained Shantaras, as described in the Nectar of Devotion, experiences a transcendental mellow that is called disgust. And it's also said that disgust relates to this person has again access to the value of the jiva. He experiences the greatness of the soul, the purity and the shakti of the soul, and compared to that sees the material body he or she had adopted and feels disgust toward that. So that both things at the same time. On one side we acknowledge and respect the value of the soul, and at the same time reject the apparent value of the body and see how it is actually completely not valuable. So this is my understanding how we should see that.
Very nice. It seems to reconcile those two things.
Prabhupada mentioned the birth, but this Bhuvaneshwar and Puri, and you also spoke about Stanga and being because we offer after them prasada. In South India you will find this everywhere, but in Eastern temples you don't find this. Then can you tell us why? If it's so important?
Yeah, it's a good question. Just give me a second here, because I also have one question online. For one thing, my understanding is in South India, there's more the prominence of the Sri Sampradaya, where Vishnu is very central, and therefore also the pastimes of Vishnu and the demigods also are more central, and they are much more established there. In ISKCON, in my understanding, Srila Prabhupada established that when you serve Krishna, you serve all of them. And it would be my assumption, at least, that he also didn't want to too much emphasize this respect of the demigods out of the possibility there could be deviation toward like getting a bit too caught up in like appreciating demigods and losing the focus of being simply purely servants of Krishna, saying when you do that, all the demigods are served. So that would be how I see it. I don't know if someone else could add to that. Otherwise, then shortly would get into we have one question here. So online.
You are here.
Yeah?
You are already here.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
Because often you ask something, but you are here.
When I have no trust, not in me and not in others, how can I get a servant of the lotus feet of the Lord? Is it not hopeless? Yes, so therefore that's what I emphasized. It is important to develop a positive sense of self based on Shastra, to look at yourself not in terms of your present material biography, the way you grew up, the body you have now. This we should understand. We are eternal. We had already different bodies, higher birth. We probably had very great births, kind of on higher planetary systems. We had been already lower as well. Also, don't think that it can't get worse. It can. They are like really very abominable conditions of life that are described in the Bhagavatam. So what I suggest is really focus on the positive identification with the Atma, the spiritual self, and understand you are that. This is what Krishna is telling all over Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And this way, allow yourself to identify with it as a spiritual soul which has a body. The body might be very full of disadvantages, or like the karma might be difficult at the moment, but the sense of having no value is coming from the material body, not from the Atma. So in this sense, we always try to identify in one sense positively with the self and losing identification with the body. But of course, it's subtle, and it must be careful, because these things I also know that like they so easily get mixed up, and it's a very conscious effort to try to distinguish these two things. All right. Okay, I think then we have time.
Thank you for the crucial lecture. I appreciate it. And one
Could you take the microphone too?
Thank you. And one point that specifically stood out was that like respect, like we have to respect each and everything, and also each and every person, and like we respect like the person, but we may not agree with the actions. I think this is always like very important, and something that just came into my mind when you read the online comment is like with the trust. Because sometimes I think we all struggle with trust issues, and I think it's normal because we get disappointed, and I think we wouldn't be here if we would all be like perfectly perfect. And so we have to forgive that people sometimes they are not the way we would like them to be, and that we can help each other better. But sometimes like the way I try to do, like I give the full trust to God, to above, and just I sprinkle my trust like very carefully into people, just a little bit, and that way doesn't make sense, like you don't get disappointed so easy, because like God is going to take care of you. And it's
Right. By kind of saying giving up expectations on others also protects you from disappointment. Like this. In terms of trust might also be, I don't expect you to maybe be trustworthy, whatever.
Yes, but I meant more like because God is like more superior, and we will not get disappointed if we like focus more on our belief and on the divine than on other people, because they have their own issues and they are maybe not on their path yet they're supposed to be on, so that's why it's like better. It's like this self-care thing, like when I take care of myself first, then I can serve others better, but I have to take care of myself first. And I think it's also very important that you pointed out the difference between having self-respect and being too humble, because it's easy, and I think we have to be careful to hide ourselves in like a phrase or a form, a posture, like we are humble, and we just dive into like, oh, I have no self-respect. So it's like an easy getaway. And I don't think it's good for us, because we have to appreciate, because you said Krishna is in everything, Krishna is also enough, and we would actually like hurt Krishna if we are not good to ourselves, and this is also like the wrong thinking, if we don't think we're good enough or something like that. So I think that's important.
Thank you. Yes. In the first place, yeah, trusting in God, the perfect being, that everything He arranges is perfect. And yeah, don't trust too much in a sense, or rely on people, because we are fallible, others are fallible. Therefore, it's also important to practice forgiveness, because we cannot expect perfection from imperfect beings. So what if you rely on Krishna as a perfect guide? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Grantha Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.
Krishna ki jai.